I'm going to run through how to create an app similar to this. It's using create React app, TypeScript, and qrcode.react, the npm package. It's not going to be exactly the same as this. It's going to be missing some of the functionalities, some of the features, but it'll be similar enough. Start off by running npx create React app, and then the name of our app, which in our case is qrgen. We're using TypeScript, so don't forget to add -- template TypeScript as well, and then wait for that to all build. cd into the newly created folder, and then hit code.-r, and then that will open up in VS Code for you. Once that's opened, we want to run yarn add qrcode.react, and then once that's been installed, we want to run yarn start to start the development server up. We're just going to start off by deleting some of the template as code that create React comes with. Give us a nice clean slate to sort of work off of. So just deleting that from the app.js file, checking the other folders, other files to see if there's anything that we don't need. Don't need that image anymore, can get rid of that. Right, now we got rid of that, let's start by actually creating the QR code component. That's going to be the sort of main feature of this application. So I'm going to create a new components folder under source, and then create a file called qrcode.tsx in there. So we're just importing QR code SVG from the qrcode.react package, and then using this nice little snippet here, we're going to hit RFC to create this sort of boilerplate React functional component for us there. So let's go ahead and render that QR code SVG component. I'm just going to start passing down some props. For a list of all the props, by the way, you should visit their docs, as they have a nice little demo as well you can play around with and see everything that the component takes. So the value, that's going to be the actual link that the QR code links to. The size is how big the actual QR code SVG is. And then we can also configure the background color, the foreground color, which will sort of create a form to control that ourselves later on. But for now, let's just hard code it so we can actually see something on the front end, see something in the browser. So we're going to import that to our app.tsx. I'm just going to create a little header, title for our project. Amazing qrgen app, that will do. And then let's render that component that we've just made. Right, let's see what that looks like. Whoa, got a QR code, nice work. Not sure I like it being right on the bottom of the page though, so I'm just going to take away that min height on the app header class. And yeah, there we go, sort of sitting under the header now, that's a bit nicer. We'll add a bit of margin as well, just so it's not sort of hugging the title so much. So margin 2 rem, let's see how that looks. So we want that to be margin bottom. Right, let's see how that looks. There we go, bit nicer. I'm just going to update the link because Daily Dev Hub doesn't really link anywhere. I actually misremembered the blog site that I've just started working on. It should be devdailyhub.com. That should actually link somewhere. Anyways, we're just going to add some state. So import use state from the top, and then we want to be able to change the URL where the actual QR code will link to. We want to also be able to change things like the size, so we'll add that one as well, and then we'll add a couple more as well. You can really customize quite a lot with these QR codes, but for now I think we'll just sort of focus on the main visual things that you'll see, so like the background color and the foreground color as well. So just initialize these state objects. We're just going to sort of default the background color to be white and the foreground color to be black, and that's the sort of standard thing that you see with most QR codes, although we'll create a form to make that more customizable. So start off by creating an input, a component for that will be like a text input and a label, so we'll call that text input.tsx. Again, running RFC to get a nice template. And it's going to take in quite a few props: ID, label, value, set value, a type as well. So it can be like a text input or a number input. Now we are using TypeScript, so let's make an interface where we can say what types these inputs are. So ID and label, they're both going to be strings. Value, it's going to be a string for now. Set value, that's actually going to be a dispatch, which comes from React, as it's going to be the function that sets the state of whatever we pass in, and that's also going to sort of match the value, because value is going to be the value from the state, and then set value is going to be this function that updates that state. Type is going to be optional, so we're going to put a question mark after the type because you don't have to pass it in, and we can default that to be text. This component is going to have a couple of elements. First off, a label, which is going to be the text that displays something that we've passed down to say what the input actually is. HTML4, that's going to be the ID, because that's going to match up with the ID of the input. And we just carry on matching the attributes of the input with the props that we're passing down. So here for type, we're going to set it to be type, but that is optional, so it could be undefined. So what we'll do is we'll just default that to be of type text. Now the onChange function, we actually want that to update our state. So we're going to make this for an arrow function that would just update value to be whatever was typed into the input, which is e.target.value. It's always a good idea to keep organized, so we're going to create a types folder under source, and then in there we're going to create a file called types.ts. I'm going to create an interface called iCoreInput, just because if we have any other inputs, like a number input, email input in the future, we can just reuse this interface. And then our text input is going to extend that iCore input, so we're going to want to import that from our types file, and we can get rid of some of those duplicated values there. Now we're actually going to add a min and a max prop as well to this input. I was going to create a separate number input, but I figured that would be like a lot of duplication, so I figured I'd just sort of make one input component, and we can use that for numbers as well as string, as long as text inputs as well. We're going to want to take that as well as a prop, and then add that to the input as well as attributes. Right, let's create another component. This is where we'll actually be able to put our input component that we just created. It's going to be the form that will have all of our inputs for customizing our QR code. As for props, this is going to need all of the state objects, so the values and also the set state functions as well. So we're just going to add those here. Again, with this being a TypeScript project, we're going to define our interface for this component as well. Since we've already sort of decided what the props are going to be called, we'll just sort of duplicate that here and then say what types they're all going to be. Don't forget to import dispatch and set state action as well from React. I'm just sort of auto importing those by hitting tab as I type. Right, let's import our text input. Thanks to our lovely interface, we should know exactly what props we need to pass down as well, if we forgot the names. Right, let's import our form, and then we can start passing down all of those props, all those lovely state objects down to our form. Right, let's check it out. We got an input, and it works. Fantastic. Right, we're going to add the rest of our form inputs now. So we've also got size, background color, and foreground color to add. So let's get started on size. Not too much different here from our other text input, except that this is going to have a type of number, and we'll also have those min and max props as well that we can set as well. So that will just determine what the maximum number we can put in the input is and what the minimum number we can put in the input is as well. Just some basic validation really. And do make max and min a number, not a string like I did. Okay, it does look like TypeScript doesn't like our value and set value, which is because it's expecting a string and we're passing it a number. We can sort this out by using generics. We actually want to open those angle braces just after I text input there, and then we want to replace value with t with that generic that we'll pass down, and also in our set action for the set value property there as well, we're going to replace that with t, and we're also going to pass down this generic as well as a prop, so we're going to have to add that to where we're defining the function as well. Let's see, value isn't happy with us now. Let's see, so t, it can't be a string or a number. I'm gonna have to do something about this. Right, took a bit of playing around. So we've extended our generic as a string or a number, and then we're going to extract the onChange. So we're going to replace that with a function. So we're going to have to add some logic to check whether it's a string or a number. So we're going to type e as change event, and that is a HTML input element. We're going to check if type is of number, check if it's a number input. We'll create a new constant that's going to store the value, and if it is a number input, we're going to convert the e.target value to a number. And I just realised in a second that I imported the wrong sort of change event, passed down the wrong generic. That should be HTML input element. I messed up as well. I don't want to just return a value, I want to set the value to state. The handle changes final form. We check if it's a number. If it is, we convert e.target value to a number, set that in state. Otherwise, we just set e.target value to state. Again, to make TypeScript happy, we need to cast that as t, as our generic. Let's just double check that's all working as intended. So our text input, yeah, that's all working nicely still. And there's our number input. Cool, looking good. And we're now just going to pass down the types as generics. So the first one's going to be a string, because that's our URL, and the second one a number for our size. And we got our URL, our size sorted. We're going to add a couple more inputs, one of which for the background color, and then one for the foreground color as well. I'm going to speed up this a bit because it's nothing you haven't seen before. First off, doing the background color, passing the values down, and then doing exactly the same for the foreground color, just with different names. What do you look at that? All of our inputs are there. We have a functional form and they've got our default values in. Now we've got a form to set those values. Next up, we're going to pass all of those down to the QR code component. Because we are using TypeScript, what I like to do first is actually define the types that the component's going to take in, just because then it makes it really simple with nice autocomplete to pass those props down later. To avoid confusion as well, just going to use the same names that we used for the actual state objects as well. So using URL size, BG color, FG color, and defining the types of those as well. Now we're going to pass those values to the actual QR code SVG from the qrcode.react package. So if the URL exists, we'll use that. If it's undefined for whatever reason, we'll just default that so we don't have a broken QR code. I'm going to do the same sort of logic for the size, background color, and foreground color as well. Even though all of these will be defined, well, we're setting default values for them, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So finally, we can pass down the values that we're setting in our form down to the QR code component that we created. And because we already wrote out those TypeScript for the TypeScript interface, we got nice autocorrect here. So I'm just pressing Control Enter, seeing what's coming up. Yep, that's everything. Cool. Demo time. Let's see if this actually works. Okay, I'm gonna update the URL. Oh, you can see the QR code changing. Alright, the size updates the size, that's good. And yeah, that's giving a nice grey background colour. Cool. Don't really know any other nice colours to use on the top of my head. I just googled hot pink, always a good one to know. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. Although that being said, I'm actually going to add some styles to the form, just because it isn't beautiful. That was a lie. I'm going to open up the QR config form component, add a class name to it, QR config form container. Good name. I will add that to our app.css. Right, we're going to set it to be flex, which makes it a bit more flexible to change around. Flex direction is going to be a column. So that's not really going to change too much straight away, but we'll make it easier to sort out all the item spacing. We can add a 1 rem gap so they're not all hugging each other, and increase the font size a little bit. It's always good to use relative values rather than pixels, makes it a bit more dynamic. Also just going to add a colon and a space at the end of the label, so it looks a bit nicer. Finishing touch. Add a bit of margin to the bottom of the form so it's not hugging the QR codes. Oh, look at that already. That is a little bit better. Super. And obviously you can go completely crazy with the styling, personalize it, make it beautiful. That isn't what I wanted to the demo. This isn't a CSS video, but that is everything in the scope of this video. I hope you actually learned something useful. Don't forget to check out freeqrgen.net, where there is a fully fleshed out version of this. Goodbye.